I think Trump did a very good job going into the Far East. I complimented him, and in one of my blogs recently, I just said I believe he may have made a deal through Russia and China to contain North Korea, and I think that's sufficient right now. And when he signaled into the press in the United States, don't worry, that was the real Trump. In other words, what you had when he was, blustering and saying things about Kim Jong-un was part of the art of the deal. In other words, for America to understand Trump, you really have to read his book.
If you are receiving this transmission, you are the resistance. I want to get into the Texas shooting. I want to get into what happened in Vegas. I want to get into the FBI and Mueller, who is past his eyeballs in Russian collusion. And so that's why he went after Trump and myself and everybody else, saying that we're Russian agents. And they have just hundreds of articles this week just saying, it's confirmed Jones works for the Russians. And it's just beyond bizarre to see them accuse Rand Paul, Tucker Carlson, and then meanwhile, Mueller is on tarmacs giving weapons-grade uranium to the FSB. That's the KGB. And the Bagman, and killing investigations into the Clintons. And then appointing people like Phil Mudd, who was with the CIA to the FBI, to go on television and say, we're going to kill the president. You don't see people in third world countries doing that. It's beyond Banana Republic. And then Mueller walks around, and I'm surprised they don't blow horns and go, the royal king is here. Unelected master, appointed by the Deputy Attorney General, the man who will decide who can be president and who will veto the voters. Oh, Robert, in bed with Russia, Mueller. And I'm like, is this really happening? I mean, if they had me on tarmacs with uranium to the Russians, I'd say arrest me. And I love how when he walks around with these other people, they all color coordinate and have the same ties, just different colors. And it's all like this fashion show where he walks real like he's powerful. Just everyone's like, look at me. And everyone goes, oh, it's Mueller. Oh, he's so... I mean, this is a new royalty. And the media spins that and goes, Jones believes that Mueller will be made literal king of Earth, Newsweek. Jones is totally insane. In between saying there's slave colonies on Mars, never said that. No video, no audio. In between saying there's Mars colonies of slaves, Jones says Mueller will be a king. I'm saying he's acting outside of government and law as a coup d'etat, just as Congressman Gates is now saying out of Florida. Okay, going back to Dr. Steve Pieczenik, psychiatrist, medical doctor, psychological warfare guy, done a lot of stuff, run operations, overturned governments, you name it. And he's been talking about the civil war inside our government, inside the intelligence agencies, and what he sees getting ready to happen in the Middle East, where he sees what's happening with Trump, what's going on with Mueller, the FBI, and where he sees this civil war, or if he uses that term, where he sees this power struggle right now. So tell us what you think about Trump, the whole 9 yards, and where you currently see us, Dr. Pieczenik.
Well, I think Trump did a very good job going into the Far East. I complimented him, and in one of my blogs recently, I just said I believe he may have made a deal through Russia and China to contain North Korea, and I think that's sufficient right now. And when he signaled into the press in the United States, don't worry, that was the real Trump. In other words, what you had when he was, blustering and saying things about Kim Jong-un was part of the art of the deal. In other words, for America to understand Trump, you really have to read his book. It's not that he's erratic or he's impulsive. It's that he believes that certain approach to people is very successful for him. And at this point in time, China was acquiesced, basically acted as a very good ally for us. Japan was excellent with us, and so was South Korea. He had a very good relationship with Mr. Moon, President Moon of South Korea. But what he reminded North Korea of, and this was very important, he had in one of his meetings with South Korea a woman from North Korea who had been a comfort woman for the Japanese when they controlled all of Korea. She was in her late 80s and 90s.
That means a sex slave.
Correct, a sex slave. Thank you, Alex. And that signaled into North Korea that, remember, the one country that Korea is totally frightened of, more than us, more than China, even Russia, is Japan, because they know how brutal Japan was to Korea over 100 years. So he used that to signal in to say, don't mess with us. He sent 3 to 4 aircraft carriers on ThinkTac. They did a great job.
Sure, so how is he doing a great job there, but now, because I was thinking it's good to have Saudi Arabia going after some of the radicals and breaking up some of the networks. I mean, I want to go back to that. The FBI, Mueller, his whole thing, where's that going?
In other words, he can control, there are many things that are cover-ups, and for whatever reason, he's allowed Mueller to remain. I agree with Bannon and with you and with others. He should have been dismissed and actually arrested. Mueller comes out of a very interesting background. The white Anglo-Saxon Protestant who served bravely in Vietnam and compromised his entire life and integrity for 9/11. And he was appointed the head of the FBI just before 9/11. This was part of the Bush gang, the Bush family, which should have been in prison, one of the most detrimental families to the American history. When Bannon correctly said 43 was a disaster, one of the worst presidents we've ever had, he really made the point.
Well, I mean, he's obviously a mental patient. I mean, W is a vegetable almost now.
Well, he's not only, he was an idiot to begin with and is an idiot now. But, I mean, it goes back to the father whom I worked with, and I kept quiet until he opened his mouth about Trump, saying that he's a blowhard. And then I went right into Bush Sr. saying, number one, you better be careful because we know about the fact you weren't shut down. You ejected from that jet plane or the plane that you were in, and you were cowardly. Secondly, we know very well you were part of the Hinckley organization that tried to assassinate Reagan for the reasons that have to do with succession and the vice presidency and the fact that Reagan was far more demented than anybody knew. Now, that's not coming out. You see, the narrative that came out to America was a narrative that we had a great president, America first under Reagan. Nonsense. Reagan was already compromised. Nancy Reagan, who was more brilliant than anybody, was basically understood that...
Oh, she hated the Bushes. She said that. Stay there.
In ancient times, man roamed the earth in a constant state of hunting or being hunted. Introducing Caveman, where cutting-edge science meets ancient super nutrients. Secure your bottle right now at InfowarsStore.com.